Here on the Creative Thinker Podcast, we discuss all theories, philosophy, and thought behind the creative process. And we hope that you find some inspiration along the way.
Hello and welcome to the Creative Thinker Podcast. My name is Henry Moon and I'm joined by
Michael Vasquez.
Thank you for coming along on this little journey of ours. Today we're going to be talking about creative problem solving.
First off, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Hope you guys had a wonderful Thanksgiving, ate lots of turkey. Hope you're... Wow, that was really good.
Yeah, thanks.
Um,
That's my mouth noises.
yeah, hope everyone had a safe Black Friday and weekend of shopping and, finding good discounts and everything like that. So, but most importantly, enjoying time with friends and family.
Yeah, hopefully you've had time to decompress from visiting family.
Yeah, for sure. And you're not too full from all the turkey and stuffing and all the good stuff. Speaking of, what was your favorite dish? Let us know.
And what did you come up with for the pumpkin pie challenge?
Yeah, what was your what did you see at the table, and what's pumpkin pie in your world?
Fictional food. Hit us up.
Yeah, we didn't do it, but you hit us up. I
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, I can come up with some foods and stuff, but it's not pie. I have some stuff written for my D&D world, but it is definitely not desserts at this point.
My fictional food is turkey.
Turkey. Terkay.
I don't know where I come up with these ideas.
That's
so good.
Funny. Well, welcome back, guys. Hope you had a wonderful holiday here in the States. And yeah, we're back to it. We're back to it. Hopefully we're gonna get back on a roll here. Again, today we're talking about creative problem solving.
The goal is going to be showing creativity in daily life and bridging the gap between different areas of understanding.
Right. So in our promo for this episode, we talked about, your creativity in daily life. And I know some people don't feel like they're super creative in their work and their job, but that's something that now, especially that we've talked about over the course of the years, that I try and bring creativity into my job, because if you don't, you're going to go crazy, but creative problem solving is something that I see and have to do very, very often. I know when I went into my job, I did not want to creative problem solve. I wanted to come in and just do my job and be done. But I can't do that. I have to creatively problem solve. And
It's soul crushing. You can't.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
have to create. I don't. It's wild.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about that and how to use it, how to make it, work in your day-to-day life, and maybe how you can use that in your storytelling as well today. So
very good.
As we're talking about creative problem solving, what is creative problem solving?
Well, I have so many definitions of that in my own head. So instead of doing that, like I always do, we're just going to grab the definition.
Yes.
Creative problem solving is a way of solving problems or identifying opportunities when conventional thinking has failed. It encourages you to find fresh perspectives and come up with innovative solutions so that you can formulate a plan to overcome obstacles and reach your goals. Boy, if that is not the land of learning speak, I don't know what is.
Yeah, that is from mindtools.com, the article called Creative Problem Solving.
My goodness.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all it comes down to is you're at a problem that you can't immediately fix.
Mm-hmm.
And, or at least the most trodden road or the easy path is not clearly visible.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it means. If you're sitting at a problem for more than 30 seconds and everybody else in your office or wherever you happen to be is also at that place, it's time for some creative problem solving. That's all it means.
Yeah.
So you had an example earlier when we were talking about a creative problem solving that you do at work.
Yeah.
Could you give us that story?
Yeah. So if you follow my personal Instagram, what was it, like maybe at this point about a month ago, we had our holiday stuff that we needed to set up, and we call it the battleship, where I had to make about 10 pallets worth of holiday product for our local grocery store here and get it set up. But I had to, the problem was how I did it last year is different than what I did this year. And obviously you want to try it. If you have an example of what to look at, I tend to look at that so I can make it real easy and I can still creative problem solve from there. But what we did last year, we're not doing this year because, or just some of the items we're not putting back on there.
Do you guys have planograms? Is it like the same thing where it's like
So-
a
so-
diagram of where everything goes?
So a planogram would be like if something is on the shelf, like if you're gonna go to your chip aisle and you want just like tortilla chips, the planogram should be it's gonna be in a certain spot. It's gonna be on this shelf and it's gonna have this many facings or whatever. What we're doing here does not include a planogram. This is all by vibe, and I have to make sure it's the right vibe and the right kind of flow, or else my boss is gonna get mad at me. And my boss gave me the creative freedom to do what I needed to do, and was not like over my back watching me and telling me how I needed to do stuff. He just let me do my thing, which is cool. It's freeing to be able to do that. And it's nice to have a boss that will let you either make the mistake or make the decisions on your own, because with our store, my department does about $2 million every week. So it's a lot for him to micromanage if he needed to do that. So he doesn't micromanage me very much. So I was able to have that freedom to put the product where I needed to put it. And so when we're talking about holiday product, it's everything you all had last week. We're talking about all the canned veggies, all the stuffing, all the pie fillings and things like
Cranberries.
that. Cranberries, yeah.
The big stack of
Broth.
oil that they always have.
Yep. Oils.
Flour, sugar.
The masa, the sugar. Yep, exactly. All of that brown sugar, the confectioner sugar. If we're out of it, I'm sorry. I apologize. Everyone's having warehouse issues. The world is continuing to grow larger and larger, and production continues to get strained as people don't want to work those jobs because they want to be treated fairly, and I get it. But having to create all of that on my own was nerve-wracking, because I had to, one, do it in a timely manner. I couldn't take all day to do it. I only had 4 hours to get my side done before the store opened, because that's always the goal. Get as much as you can finished before the store is open.
And it's not just moving 10 pallets, it's creating 10 pallets.
Yes,
right? Like
yeah. I created...
Place them and then stack them.
I created 10 pallets worth, probably through about 25 pallets of product that we had to go through. And my
in
boss,
4 hours.
Yeah, my boss did the other 10 pallets, or one of my managers did the other 10 pallets. And so between the both of us, we probably went through about 30 pallets or so just to create our 20 pallets, and like condensing them, making sure that the shelf was also full, making sure our displays were also full. And so we had to kind of, talk to each other, be like, what's going to be on your side? What's going to be on my side? Go. And, I have to look through these pallets to make sure I have what's going to be together. So, I need to make sure this brand of green beans are together and this brand of corn's together. Then I got to start with the next brand of green beans and corn and make sure they're all stacked to an even level. Make sure I have enough stacked so that it flows together, because you don't want green beans, like one stack of green beans and then one stack of cranberry sauce and then one stack of soup and then one stack of green beans, right? We want it to make sense. So if someone goes to the green bean section, they're going to grab whatever green beans they want, or corn, or whatever they want. And to have the most variety and options for them based off what my managers ordered, which they didn't tell me what they ordered. So I just had to go in and wing it and make sure it made sense for what we were going to be doing. And so what I had to do from there was not think too hard about it, because last year I also had the same objective to do, but they did not tell me that I was going to be doing it, one, and I had a lot of questions because I wanted to make sure I was doing it right. And so I took a lot of advice from last year and used that advice for this year to create the system that I ended up doing, so that it would make sense, because I knew whatever I was going to be doing is going to be there for the next 2 months. So I did this at the beginning of, what month are we in? November? Yeah, we're at the end of November now. So we did this at the beginning of November, or it was actually Halloween Day. We did this. And I knew it's going to be up for 2 months. So I had to make sure and have enough forethought that everything I put there is going to be brought in and we'll be able to replenish it. Because last thing you want is to start taking stuff out that doesn't fit, or take stuff out and then try and put something there that doesn't fit, because it's very tight spaces. So if it's 3 cans worth, small cans worth, I can't take something that has 4 cans sideways or 2 big cans. Like they might fit. So it's a lot of forward thinking that needs to happen there as well. And yes, just making sure I had the right tools. I made sure I had the right product and was able to just go. And once I kind of had a plan set up, I was like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Started moving it. Started making sure the tags were in the right spot, because we have to tag everything ourselves as well. And yeah, and then communicate with my manager a little bit, like, hey, what would you do here? This is what I'm thinking. Is this all right? Because my managers have like 20 something years of experience in grocery. So I was able to, each of them. So, that's almost 40 years worth of experience, that I was able to pull from. And I tried to ask very few questions and just do my thing. So I wasn't bothering them. And sure enough, it ended up being a success. Things are working out. And it is a pain to fill now that I spent so long trying to make sure it's actually all set up. But, I'm very, very proud of what I was able to do in those 4 hours and have continued to maintain to help service the community around us.
Nice. And there's so many points in that we're going to get to later, and just reference, why that is a good creative problem solving story. And I just want to point out now that the pride coming from your work is because you were able to apply your creativity, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
You were allowed to make your own choices. You were allowed to do it the way you would do it, instead of the way it's always been done, what makes sense to you. And that's what happens, at least for creative people. I'm sure for everybody, if you get a little bit of autonomy and it goes well, you're going to be proud of that. But for creatives in particular, job affection is the wrong word. Liking your job is very much predicated on the fact that you get to apply your creativity, and being proud of yourself is part of that, being able to enjoy your job. I heard a study somewhere, again, with my lack of being able to reference things on the spot. I heard a reference where they said that people who are creative often don't stay at jobs for very long, and they don't fit in with a lot of corporate jobs ever, because corporations are built to be efficient, and that means they want to be able to plug and play employees, and creatives don't work like that.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not any more deep than that. They're just, their brains are wired differently, and they're not able to. So, and corporations are wired differently because that's what they have to do. Their business is so big. So I'm not dogging on anybody for that, but definitely if you're creative and you're doing that kind of problem solving at work, it definitely makes the time go by way faster. It makes it feel way better to be there. And so I would just want to point that out before we move on. When do we use creative problem solving is the next question I want to answer before we get into the specific steps. And there's only 4. It's going to be super simple, but I want to make sure that we're hitting these and being clear and efficient with our wording. So simplifying problems. That is a major thing that you did in this task. It's when a task seems too difficult or having too many steps, creative solutions reduce the number or steps or the task difficulty by finding a new way to complete it. I got these off of Harvard Business. I think they had them up there. Anyway, their website. Moving on. So when you have a battleship to put out.
Yeah. We call what I made, we call that the battleship in our department. I don't know why. It kind of feels like a battleship when you're in the middle of it. So it's kind of a cool thing to call it the battleship, but it is called the battleship.
It's a giant display in the middle of an aisle that, of just all kinds of seasonal food. So if you looked at that task, say 2 or 3 years ago, and they said,
year.
yeah, but I mean, like before you had as much experience in grocery, maybe your first year when you started on with them, and they said, okay, go for it.
Yeah, I would have been lost, dude.
Yeah, the amount of steps that it would take to complete that is just astronomical if you wanted to break it down all the way. And at that point in your learning, you would have had to because, you need to get it done. But being creative, you have shortened the process many times over to where it's just, okay, I'm loading these cans now. Okay, that's one step, But it's like that's after you've already planned the aisle. Like it's like your tasks became smaller and smaller as you went instead of bigger and bigger.
Yeah. I think that's always simplifying the problem is such a big thing, and I don't want to expand too much about on it until we, get through all of our steps. But a lot of the times when I see people look at a problem or look at the job task that they have been asked, and it's huge. It's a big task when you think about, for us, it's our wear room. If our wear room is super messy, I always tell people, just to simplify it, I'm like, start from right to left. They're like, what? I was like, just start on the right side and go left. They're like, what do you mean? I was like, dude, don't think about it. Just go and start on the right side and then start clearing up all the way to the left. And then you do it on the opposite side, right to left. And you're going to be making progress. Like the whole thing that I see creatives or any type of people who are trying to overcome a challenge that they can't handle it or can't figure out a way to handle that right away is simplify the problem as easy as just start from right to left. Like you're trying to overcomplicate it, just do it. Just start on something, because people can get paralyzed by fear or paralyzed by the largeness of the task at hand. But when you take it as baby steps, you're able to start making some progress with it. And then, of course, the creativity and some of the other things that will happen that we talk about will come in line. But that's why whenever someone tells me to clear up the wear room, I'm like, bet I can do that real easy, because I know how to simplify my process and how to get my wear room clean, where it would take someone maybe 3 hours to get it clean. I could probably get it done in about 45 minutes, just because I understand the process and the workflow and the energy that needs to be spent on certain items as we try and clear up our wear room, because that's an issue that I come across many times a week, especially as we're into the holidays. So yeah, simplify. Don't overthink it. I think that's the biggest thing that my manager has told me. Don't overthink it. Just start. Just do it. Don't overthink it. And sometimes just taking that first step forward is the answer that you are looking for, without even tackling some of the other components that we have for creative problem solving. Just simplifying the problem to baby steps, you'll be able to start tackling that monster in front of you.
I had taken years before I had even bought the canvas. I wanted to start doing larger canvases, started painting bigger and bigger. And I had finally, basically, I got a job where I could only paint maybe an hour a day. So it's just been busy. And I was also making enough money that I was able to get the canvas. So I got the canvas finally after all the years of just looking at it on the shelf, and put it up on the wall. And I was done with it in about a week. And it's because I could only do 1 hour. So I was like, well, I'm going to try to make the best of my time. And for that 1 hour, I'm going to paint as much as I can. And then I'm going to, 5 minutes before the end of the hour, I'm going to pack everything away and I'm going to go to work. Right. And I was done in a week, and I've been putting it off for years because in my head, it's like, I want to reach this end product. And, unless you're very, very good at your craft, I wouldn't say I'm master level or anywhere near, right? So if you're master level at something, maybe you can picture it and then just put it down. That would be really dope. But for me, it's like what I see is not, in my mind, is not going to look exactly like what ends up happening.
Yeah.
And because I can't always translate it exactly, then I've been putting off the task for ages. But like we said, I simplified it because I had to. There was restraints. Yeah. And I got it done in such a short amount of time that it made me feel silly for waiting so long. But for sure. We all have our process, and that's okay too.
Yeah, I think just one more thing on simplifying the problem. I was listening
I
to.
love that simplifying is going to be like our longest point.
I know, yeah, right. But it's just so crazy. There are so many different examples that you can look at in life where just simplifying something into just doing a little bit of it is going to go a long way. From trying to exercise more, or trying to make sure you're eating enough during the day, because I know a lot of people they don't eat enough during the day, even though they think they are because they have one big meal. But like the calories that we burn or expend, or the nutrients that we need in our body are typically more than what we eat. But I was listening to Christopher Paulini's interview at the end of one of the Aragon books, and he talked about how the story of Aragon was, in his mind, just a kid finding a dragon egg. Like, that's how it started. It was as simple as that, and it created this bestseller, where he didn't have to like go to college or anything. I think, or at least that's what he said. But at the time he didn't, and he had four crazy amazing books that sold really well and were life changing for him. And it all started with just the concept of a boy finding a dragon egg, and it can be as simple and as easy as that, especially when we're talking to creatives who are trying to be in art, or trying to make money in photography or writing, or whatever you're trying to reach, whatever that goal is. Just simply start with it. Simplify the problem. Start taking pictures. Start writing. Start trying to publish stuff. I know there are people that Molly and Grace, who used to work with, who have put books out, and just start. You don't have to be this crazy amazing person who spends I think what's this month, like nano write something 10,000 words for November is some kind of trend that's going on, like 10,000 words a day for November. Man, if that's too much for you, simplify it. Write 1,000 words, write 500, whatever you can do to start some type of process to moving forward, that's going to help you reach your goal.
I had a thought and it flew away, but I was thinking like 90 days. If you wrote 1,000 words a day, you'd be at your first draft of a book.
Yeah.
By average. So, 3 months.
Yeah.
And 1,000 words is not much.
Yeah. That's dope when you think about it like that. That's really cool.
Yeah. If it's only 500, which is even less, then it's only 6 months.
Yeah.
Only 6 months of dedicating. That's probably like 30 minutes, an hour of time. Yeah. Depending on how quick you write, but still, rough draft of a book is that close.
Nice. Well, we've hit simplify quite a bit. What's going to be our second?
We hit the shit out of simplify.
Yeah. What's going to be our second topic when we're talking about what's the creative problem solving?
The fuck are we doing today? Adapting to change is number 2.
Yes.
Adapting to change. When things change in the world, they change quickly. When they change within a business, they change slowly. So CPS is often born, I'm saying CPS is creative problem solving. But CPS is often born of a limitation of resources with a short deadline to make like a Band-Aid fix until the real fix can come into being. And what I find at the jobs I've had is that the Band-Aid fix, if it works good, ends up just being the fix. Mm-hmm. Because it's simpler than whatever else they were planning on doing in the first place, because it's already implemented. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think adapting to change is a really big opportunity to creative problem solve. So when businesses don't have any resources, it doesn't stop the management from wanting to do what they want to do. And unfortunately, they have power of paychecks. So you got to do what they say, right? And so it leaves a lot of people in a place where, at least in my experience, it leaves people in a place where they just have to come up with something. Mm-hmm. And I find that's when, at those moments in the office, that's when I find who the other creatives are. Yeah. Because it's like there's some people who are thriving, and then everybody else is just avoiding the problem. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, oh, okay, that person is creative. And sure, like once the dust settles, I'll talk to them like, hey, what do you do for fun? They'll be like, oh, I paint, Yeah. It's like, I knew it.
Yeah, that's what's up.
But that's a great way to find other creatives. Mm-hmm. However, creative problem solving, it's a problem without a defined solution. Mm-hmm. Without a defined process. Sorry.
Yes, yeah.
Because you have a targeted location.
you
It's
have a goal.
target to hit. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have a goal, but the way to get there is not there. They don't have anything for you. Um, so that's your creative problem solving. For that, obviously, we're just gonna move on because we spent so much time on
Well,
simplifying.
yeah, I mean, like adapting to change.
Oh,
You
okay.
go. Sorry.
We won't move on. You got something for this?
I'll just tag a little bit on, so we don't spend as much time on
Tag it.
adapting to change as we did on simplify. But like simplify is all about just starting your step. Adapting to change sometimes is figuring out where to start. Right. So like I said, start right to left or left to right. You know, is advice I give to people when it comes to clearing our ware room. But sometimes you have to adapt to change. So if the ware room doesn't look the way that it was supposed to, like how do you start picking the parts that you need to hit? So
Or you get a truck in the middle of cleaning.
yeah, or you get a truck. Like how do you change the course of what you're going to be doing? How do you when I worked at FedEx, there was a certain way that you had to load the trucks, and it's called by vision, and so they have certain shelf numbers. They have their 1,000, 2,000, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up to 8,000, and sometimes the thousands were based off of where the house or residence or business was on the street. So all the 1,000s would be, if we're in this neighborhood, all the 1,000s would be here in the neighborhood. But if everyone ordered something, the 1,000 shelf is going to blow up, right? Because there's a decent amount of people in the neighborhood here. And so the 1,000 shelf is going to be massive. So what do you do when you have five, or be more realistic, we have 60 packages going to the 1,000 shelf? How do you adapt to change? Well, you have to adapt. You have to put some. If you've ever been in a FedEx trucks, they have 2 shelves and they have the floor. So I'm going to have some 1,000s up top. I'm going to try and keep them all together. So it also tells you typically how many are supposed to be coming together. So let's say, you ordered 3 packages. Hopefully all 3 are coming together, and you want to try and put them together so it's easier for the driver whenever they can come in. And so let's say they're all a little bit bigger. I'm going to put those on the floor. Let's say I have a lot of small 1,000s. I'm going to put all the small 1,000s together. And then the 1,000s are very detailed. So there's like 1,035, there's 1,040, there's 1,055, there's 1,043 or whatever. And so you want to try and keep them in order. And adapting to the change and adapting to different situations, your truck is never going to be loaded the same way because people order at different intervals, right? Sometimes the business orders, 30 stand-up desks because that's Apple just moved into Austin, which is a real life thing that happened to me. And so, you got to make a plan, right? You got to make a plan for what's going to happen and what's coming down. And sometimes the packages look bigger or are different than what you expected. Sometimes drivers don't like their trucks packed out. So you have to figure out what are you going to leave outside so they have something to come in the middle. And so you have to adapt to change. And that really has helped me in the chaos of looking down my conveyor belt and seeing, 30 or 40 cases go into one spot. I'm like, oh snap, I don't have space. I have to act real quick to try and figure out space because I can't just let this ride on past someone else because it's going to get in their way, or I'm at the back and it's going to start piling up and become a safety hazard. So adapting to change in that way, or working at FedEx helped me adapt to change and help me problem solve because it was very quick. It had a timeline and I was watching that timeline come towards me, And so taking that outside, like where in your creative endeavors are you able to adapt to change? Again, we're talking about the 10,000 words, for November. If you committed to do that and then you're starting to go and then life happens, don't quit on that. Adapt to it. Hit 5,000 for this day. And maybe you have a goal for the end of the week, 70,000 words at the end of the week, which is crazy when you say it like that. But 70,000 words for the end of the week. So you know what? I'm going to cut it short today. Tomorrow, I'm going to pick it up a little bit or pick it up a little bit over the next course of the 3 or 4 days. So, there's a lot of different situations and ways to adapt. And that's part of, like you said, there's no set steps for it. It's just comes with experience of having to learn how to adapt and watching other people and how they adapt to change too. Because I'll see other people in all my jobs and in life and stuff adapt to change, and I kind of observe and see how those things worked. And if it worked well for them, that is a tool now that I can hopefully use in my repertoire for whenever I have issues come up. It's at work, life, whatever, finances, life. So that was my little tidbit on adapting to change, because change happens a lot. Change is a part of life, and you can't if you don't adapt to change, change is going to run you over.
True facts.
Yeah.
Uh, number 3 of 3 is innovating. When you're presented with the question of what's next, the creative problem-solving process you pull from the infinite void of that open-ended question is innovation. So when you're asked what's next, ooh, that's a tough one. Especially, I mean, whenever I think of innovation, because Apple has been so prolific in their amount of commercials that have the word innovation in it, I always think of Apple. I don't like Apple. I don't use Apple. No offense to anyone, but that's what I think of is Apple, because they always say that they have the newest technology.
Yeah.
That's been out for 10 years. Anyway, that's a rant. But
different rant.
Yeah, different rant, different day. But so when you're on the cutting, bleeding edge of technology, your whatever is next is going to be your innovation. If one job I had not too long ago, the entire job was okay, well, you're going to have to keep yourself busy. I was told that one day. So it's like, I'm going to have to make the job.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's every day I came in and it was like, I have to decide what I'm doing today. Am I, what can I do that might help?
Yeah.
Which required a lot of research. It required a lot of like asking other people if they had extra work, things like that, just sort of leveling things out. And, I finally hit my stride and found a place where I was most useful. But yeah, you kind of have to, it's iteration based with innovation. It's like the first few, not going to probably be so great.
Yeah.
I think it's Edison, right? He went through 1,000 different filaments before he got to the one that we use for the light bulb.
Right.
And so he had 1,000 different versions of, oops, that didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's probably one of the best things about my current job right now is my manager has said, if you make a mistake, own it, and I won't have a problem with it. Because I think that's the biggest thing. I've definitely have made mistakes before, and I was like, "Yep, that was me." I accidentally, changed the counts on something. I meant to order 0 for something, and instead put my counts as 0, so it ordered like 7 cases, and we already had 6 cases. So then I just had a ton of crackers that we didn't need. And he kind of looked at me, and I was like, "Yeah, my bad." So I think it, not that was innovative, but I think the lack of fear that I'm gonna like lose my job over doing something wrong and trying something different is freeing and will help me come up with more creative solutions. And I think that really helped when the whole story of the battleship in this year was I didn't feel the fear of failure if I did something wrong, because I knew what the goal was and I knew what his expectation was, and I was able to use that and still create what needed to be made. Even though I didn't have the stuff that I wanted, I had to still make certain decisions based off of what we had, and I knew I wasn't going to get ridiculed or criticized for it because they told me you have the freedom to do this, which is just a really nice spot to be in when you feel free to make mistakes. And I think that is something, anyone can learn in life, let alone just a creative, being free to make the mistake, because you're never going to like lose your job based off of one mistake. They'll always give you a warning. You always have to sign something first. Pro tip.
This I think is I've been kicking around a thought lately that it's like the best way you can go is your own way.
Yeah.
And so when you're allowed to go your own way, everything goes smoother because you're able to build your own framework. You're able to make life make sense for you. And that's always going to be the way that you're able to put the most effort into, the most enthusiasm. And just getting to see people work like that is so cool. So yeah, that's all I got for that.
Yeah. Be innovative.
Be innovative.
Like Apple.
Yeah, like Apple. No offense to anyone in particular.
Yeah.
So we're gonna move on to the steps of the creative problem solving process. But before we do that, it's that time again.
Sure is.
What's inspiring you today, Michael?
Well, what has been
Michael.
inspiring me today
Hmm.
has been I don't know, man.
Did you prep for this one?
No, I did not. It comes in every week. It just
Comes in like a wrecking ball.
okay. No. So
Miley Cyrus is inspiring me today.
yeah. No. Honestly, dude, what has been this is gonna sound crazy. What's been inspiring me like recently has been Halo Infinite video game. They just came out this last season with forgeable AI. So now you can put AI into your maps that you create. And that's just so much fun because I've always thought, and as a kid, you play, I have my brother, and so we played like, make believe Star Wars stuff. And we were able to, play like as the stormtroopers or clone troopers rather, or play as the Jedi in the Clone Wars and kind of create these crazy battles and stuff. And to go from that and to see, there are things like horde mode in Gears of War or firefight in Halo, and to create certain things like that, to feel like you're in that element of fighting against all these crazy odds is really fun. And now how they created it currently is wild. And I've been seeing some of the creations that have come out, and I've been a little inspired to try and create my own. I don't have I'm doing it on Xbox, which is way harder to do some of the scripting and stuff on the Forge, but I'm trying my best to work with it on the Xbox, and it's fun so far. It kind of creates that little creative itch because it's like world building and building maps and stuff, like for D&D, like Dwarven Forge, but using it in the Halo engine and then putting things that can move around in the game, in the map that you created, and trying to create objectives and things like that. It's really fun. It's a nice little creative itch that I've been getting, and I would love to spend a lot more time, but work and life and stuff kind of push you to not have as much time, because I could definitely spend like 10 hours and have a maybe decent map, but there are people who I swear are probably spending 2-3 days making incredible maps. Some people have recreated some of the Halo 3 maps and made like a firefight mode out of it, and it's just been so cool to see the Halo community come together and create some really dope stuff. So that's what's been inspiring me, seeing Halo Infinite video games, and then Fortnite came out with the OG season, so that's just been nostalgic, and it was fun to see the old stuff come out again, and that's also been a little inspiring for me.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah. And what has been
have you ever seen the map on that cube game that everybody plays?
Cube game.
Where they go around with the pickaxe whacking stuff. I'm sure there's more to it.
Minecraft.
Minecraft. There you go,
dude.
Have you
those
seen
maps are wild.
the remake of Middle Earth?
Yeah,
They did like 10 years, and they did like a fly through of it, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah, it's awesome. There's some stuff that they never showed in the movies that they added in from the books and stuff in certain locations. It's so wild. It's crazy to see how much nerds can come up with.
Yeah.
As a gamer myself,
Yeah.
I'm just in awe of that. And I wish, I wanted to get into Minecraft, but I didn't have a computer that was able to run it, because it just seemed so cool. Like a mode that you can just build stuff in and create stuff. I think that's why I lean towards Achievement Hunter whenever they started doing their Minecraft Let's Plays, because it was so fun to see, a group of people that I enjoyed watching play video games, but two, like seeing them actually create was fun, and seeing the creations that they did and how they moved around on the maps, and that kind of friend group that they had, that seemed to be super fun. That was my toe that popped. I saw you looking like something just came apart.
It was pretty loud here. I don't know if you can hear it on the mics, but
I know. Right?
Get that looked at, dude.
My hands and feet hurt.
It's amazing what people come up with, and what people come up with for free. Like, they're not getting paid. That's licensed material. You know what I mean? Like, they're just
that's someone's hobby right there, and
doing it for fun.
It's so cool.
Yeah, good for them. And it's another reference to, like, if you just build a little bit of a location every day, in 10 years you got all of Middle Earth. You know what I mean?
For real though. For real.
In Minecraft,
Minecraft.
Minefield. That's a different one.
That there is a minefield. That's a real life thing. That's a real life scary thing.
It used to be a computer game that they had in like Windows 98.
That's Minesweeper.
Oh, dang it. Wrong on all counts. Wrong on all counts.
So what's been inspiring you?
Not my recall. I've been reading The Peripheral by William Gibson.
Nice.
And I haven't read a book that I just feel like my brain understands. You ever read and you feel like your brain understands it, but you don't necessarily know what the words are?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that.
Yeah.
They use a lot of big words, but it's not like a crazy amount. It's just like he defines things in his world, and then he doesn't give you a whole lot of description right away. It's like later in the book he'll describe it more, but at the beginning it's just like, here's the title, we're moving on.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like I understand what's going on, and it's written beautifully, but it's like I'm emotionally along for the ride. I'm not like processing along for the ride, you know, which is so cool. It feels so good anytime I get to read something like that. Like the first book I read like that was The Last of the Mohicans.
Okay, yeah.
I love that book. I've read it so many times, but it's just like one run-on sentence, the whole book. That's an exaggeration, but it's like one sentence per page or something like that. It's old school writing.
Yeah.
And it's just written with a rhythm built into the words, you know?
I think as far as like having that hard time to comprehend it, someone asked me the other day if I had read any of Lovecraftian's work, and I have, but I was like, I don't recommend it, honestly. Like, I recommend the idea of it, but or current work that kind of involves the Lovecraftian theory about it. But his writing is rough to read too.
Yeah,
because it's like you said, it's that old school writing.
Yeah. So I'm only, I think, like 80 pages in, but like I said, anytime you find a little nugget of gold, man, it's worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
Feels so good. So I've been reading that, and I've seen the show, so I've got a fairly reasonable to assume that it's going to end good.
Yeah.
Or at least, you know, like on point.
Yeah.
But so I'm really excited.
Question of the day: are you a hard physical reader, or do you read audiobooks?
I read very physically. No. Yeah, I'm always paper in everything.
Yeah.
Much to my own detriment. Like even Dungeons and Dragons, as you know, it's like I got a stack of like 30 pages now of just like player sheets.
Yeah, I know. It's all the same stuff. You just keep losing it.
Every time I level up, I put the new sheets on top.
Yeah.
And anytime there's notes on like a new weapon, it's like I write that down, and that's another sheet.
Yeah.
And I really prefer the physical thing.
Yeah.
Like I still have a DVD collection, so
Oh, God.
I mean, it's probably worth $5 or $10.
Yeah, for real.
But yeah, I just like having the physical thing. It just feels better. I think I don't know. It's part of how I was raised, but it was also, I feel like just being born in the 90s, like turn of the century stuff is like, the technology still feels new, even though it's been around most of my life.
Yeah. I think if I had the chance, like I have a lot of physical copies of the audiobooks that I read, or listen to rather, but I just don't have the time to like sit down and actually, well, not that I don't have the time, I end up doom scrolling on Instagram or whatever, but also while I'm working, if I have the opportunity to also be listening to something I actually enjoy versus, creating the battleship, awesome, fun. I enjoyed, the outcome of it, but like, you telling me at 2 a.m. after 2 hours of sleep, that's what I wanted to do? No, it is not what I wanted to do. So I had to put myself in a world that I really actually enjoyed while I was working. And so that's why I listen to audiobooks at work.
Nice. I didn't realize you got to do that at work. Yeah, I'd be doing it too.
Before the store opens, I can. But once the store opens, headphones out.
Fractal Noise, I listened on audiobook because I was driving to and from work, and it's like 40-minute commute or something.
Yeah,
so like just put it on.
Fun.
I finished it so quick.
So that's what's been inspiring us this week.
Oh, hell yeah.
As we move back towards some simple steps for creative problem solving. I know we talked about these kind of like big three overarching maybe solutions, or we said when
Yeah,
we would use them.
moments when you would use it.
So
And
now,
it's not the only moments you'd use it. It's just like these are the most common.
yeah,
Just get you in the ballpark.
right. And so now we're going to talk about some simple steps. Whenever you're facing this problem, how do you go through and simplify, adapt, and innovate? What are these steps here?
Well, first, we clarify.
Yeah.
And that just means you are researching the problem.
Mm-hmm.
You're observing, you're gaining as much insight as you can into what the problem is. This is your research phase. So I know what the problem is. Okay, so tell me more about it.
Yeah.
You know, I just need to know facts about it. Let me. What's the input? What's the desired output?
Yeah.
And then I can figure out how to build the parts in between.
If you wanted to do the 10,000 words a day in November, clarify what your goal is for the end of it. Is your goal really to have, is your goal a short story at the end of each week? Is your goal, one super cool novel at the end of the week? What is the goal there? Simplify in all your creative endeavors. What is the goal? Again, talking about cleaning the wareroom. What's the goal? Talking about the battleship. What's the goal? I know what the goal is. Clean wareroom, full battleship.
Yeah, I can't even imagine writing 10,000 words in a day. I think the most I've ever written is like 4,500.
And if I'm saying that wrong, oops.
Yeah.
45 minutes in. Oops.
No, people do. I mean, I know there's people who do. There's oh man, my recall, right? But there's a guy who puts out like 2 or 3 novels, like big thick books a year.
Mm-hmm.
And like that dude's nuts. He's been going at it for years. I don't know how many books he has, but there's so many.
Yeah.
And they're big thick books, like I said, but it's definitely doable, but you'd have to like run in a marathon, right? You start with running a mile for a little while, then running 2, then
exactly.
you got to work your way up to that, I would think.
Yeah. So we have our first step as clarify. Our second step is
ideate.
That's a word. What does that mean?
This stage focuses on generating ideas and asking open-ended questions based on observations made while you were clarifying. So it just means that you are in your head trying to visualize the problem and then trying to draw out different responses. So it's the same as if we're world building out here. You're going to be asking a lot of questions about what you know about the world. It's what you know about the problem, and then you're gonna be flipping that question on its head. Well, if that's true, then is this true? Stuff like that. We're just gonna be bebopping around in your head, trying to change perspectives, all the stuff we always talk about, to understand the different components of the problem. And now we're getting into sort of the non-physical problem, right? So how do I get from this is where I do a lot of my not problem solving, but it's basically throwing away the ideas that don't work. So I try a lot of things when I'm in this phase. And like when we built that table, I spent 3 days pacing around my house, just kicking around the idea. And I was like, okay, what about this? Yep, that wouldn't work. Okay. It's like, and I can see, how long were the screws here? Okay, that's going to poke into this. That shouldn't be there, like all this stuff. I am problem solving a lot in this phase. Even though it doesn't say that in the description. I just wanted to share that. Yeah. But yeah, ideate, that stage is just asking open-ended questions and generating ideas, as many as you can, as fast as you can, to then sort of start sifting through.
Then we're moving on to our third point of develop.
The development stage involves exploring possible solutions based on the ideas you generated in the last phase. Experimentation and prototyping are both encouraged in this phase. So yeah, you're going to be running you're putting your ideas into action. When you're in the ideate phase, you're just, these are all ideas. They're equally weighted because you want to have as many options to pull from as you can. But once you've finished that initial creation phase, then you're sifting through ideas with, is it possible? Is this something that I have, the understanding of? Like, if there's a timeline to the problem, like whatever the constraints are to the problem, this is where you start sifting through those ideas that are just not going to work.
Yeah.
And you start ranking them, maybe the top 5 or something. You move on to the develop phase, and that's where you're starting your prototyping. That's when you're starting to try to really understand and move things into a physical space to see if there's not something that you missed. Because that is one thing with the ideate phase. When you're in your mind, obvious problems probably aren't going to spring to the forefront, because you're like, oh, okay, yeah, these two things go together. Yeah, but this thing over here, if I put those two things together, isn't going to work because I put those two things together. Those things will become super apparent once you build the physical thing.
Yeah.
So that's this develop phase.
I think a lot of time develop is when you put pen to paper, right? So what I always, tell people, when I say get started on stuff, this helps you go into, if we've clarified, clear the rare room. Okay, now ideate. Where do I go? Develop is like start, and then the game plan will come, because you're going to start seeing where you need help with. For me, I can kind of, do all 4 of these real quickly, but, for someone else, like, you need time to, okay, maybe I can do this, this, and this. And then you start doing, you're like, oh, that's not going to work. I need to hit this first, or I need to hit that, or I don't have space for this, so I need to get rid of the trash first, and then I can start moving things around, or I need to bay these things up. So yeah, I think once you start actually putting pen to paper as far as your idea, because sometimes we get lost too much in our head, and we have too many ideas, and you start thinking these grand scheme of things. But again, we're trying to simplify, start, and some of those ideas will just fly off.
Yeah, and I think it depends on how far we are into innovation, how long this will take. Because if you're way out there in innovation, I think it's going to take longer, right? Like, we were talking earlier, because we talk about Christopher Paolini a lot right now, because he's writing again, and we're both big fans. So, but he was talking about how he did a year's worth of research before he started writing again after the Aragon books for his new book. It's like, can you even imagine doing 12 months of research without getting paid for it? I mean, he's good. He's making his own money, but I can't even imagine that. Good for him. But he had a, I don't know, it was like 800-page story that he was trying to write. And so, yeah, when you look at it like that, and it's like, it's sci-fi, he hadn't done that before, and he's trying to understand all this space stuff that he hasn't put a lot of effort into in his life. Okay, now you're starting to look at 12 months and saying, is that enough? Are we ready to go?
Yeah, for real.
So it does depend on how far you are into innovation and creating something that is truly new or novel for you. How long these steps will take.
Yeah. For sure.
But yeah, I would say any creative person is going to be processing through these things pretty constantly, like you're saying.
And then when we hit our final stage, talking about implement.
Yeah, so the final stage is a culmination of the previous 3, and it involves finalizing a solutions development and communicating its value to stakeholders. So this is sort of corporate speak, but it basically means you're taking your idea with full faith in it to everybody involved, right? So you're telling your manager. That's basically all this is, right?
You're telling and or showing your manager,
Yeah. Or your editor in Christopher Paolini's case, right?
Right. Yeah.
That you're taking your idea and you're showing it to the first person and saying, this is my intended solution. Is this a suitable way to work through it? And then it becomes doing it after that, right? Making sure it happens. If your solution at this point is it doesn't work out, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, if you've prototyped it, in theory, you'd be a lot closer than if you didn't. But if you get to this point and it doesn't work, like you said, it's fine. You just start at the beginning with new information. Like, no knowledge is lost, right?
Yeah, you go back to ideate, develop, implement. Ideate, develop, because you hopefully clarify you have a goal already.
Yeah.
So again, those 4 steps, we talked about the big overarching kind of themes. Our 4 steps that we're talking about here, the simple steps in creative problem solving. We're talking about clarify, ideate, develop, and then finally using all 3 of those to implement your solution to the creative problem that you have. I believe, Henry, you were going to talk about another link as we were talking about this. Of course, we're doing research. We're looking online for stuff. Here was a link that you wanted to talk about, or a
Yeah,
website, rather.
yeah, it's from simplicable.com or Simply Cable. I don't know. It's with an I in there. Simplicable.com. And it's got 21 examples of creative problem solving, and it's a pretty good list. So I'll just read you some of the bullet points without explaining. So hopefully they make enough sense to you. But if not, you can look up the article, and if anything jumps out, we can talk about it. But counterfactual thinking, that just means, thinking of things how they would be different than they are right now, right? Creativity of constraints, which means giving yourself boundaries, right? Brainstorming, that one's obvious. We talk about that all the time. Preserving ambiguity, that just means you're avoiding assumptions. Challenging assumptions means anything that you decide to be true, what if it isn't? Just take a moment to go that route. Hypothetical questions, kind of the same thing, but there you go. A thought experiment, just trying to convert it to something simple. Take the simplify step that we already talked about, just reducing the problem down. Abstraction is another version of the same thing, making it very, very simple and maybe taking it to a different section of life to see if that triggers something. Creative intuition, I don't necessarily know on that one. Solutions occur without any conscious thought. Okay, well that's not a really helpful one, but we'll move on. Serendipity, yeah, that's not really helpful either. Ask the 5 whys. Ask why 5 times in succession. And then there's a whole bunch more of these. I mean, there's a whole bunch more.
I think the one that the two that I like the most are actually, they're all good, right? But one that sticks out to me is embrace mistakes, as we talked about earlier. Once you are able to, what it talks about is what would happen if you pursue options that you consider to be obvious mistakes. Sometimes a mistake is a mistake. Like what's going to be the worst? Like, I work at a grocery store. What's the worst mistake you're going to have? Like, something's not going to be on the shelf. Something's going to be on the shelf in a different spot. Like, to me, it's very low stakes. And so I try and tell people who are stressing about work, like, hey, dude, chill. It's going to be okay. The worst thing that's going to happen is this, and you might get a talking to, and there's no write-up or anything. Like, it's going to be fine. The worst thing that would happen for me at FedEx if I had late cuts when I was trying to get trailers is the supervisor of the regional area would email me and say, why are these trailers late? Because people who are paying for 1 or 2 day shipping aren't going to be getting their packages on time because my trailer was late especially if it was more than 5 minutes. That was a big no-no. Like, I had to send that trailer because holding and waiting for 2 people's packages wasn't worth the thousands of people who paid for their premium packages and who are going to be upset. So it kind of sucks that one versus 2,000-3,000 people kind of stinks, but also it makes sense when you're looking at it from our perspective. So to me, that mistake is a lot worse because I could lose my job for that. That's one where it happens once and they talk to you and it does not happen again. And if it does, that's it. So embracing the mistake. And then, what's the worst as a creative? For the most part, what's the worst? Unless this is how you're making your money as a creative, the worst thing is you're going to be putting your stuff out there. We're podcasting. What's the worst that's going to happen? My family
thumbs down.
Yeah,
Your family listens.
My family listens to it and they tell me I'm swearing too much. Okay. So I mean, aside from that, what's the worst? We're having fun. We're enjoying expressing our ideas. So to me, the worst thing that's going to happen isn't bad. The best thing that happen is you share this with your friends and family and you get more people to listen to the Creative Thinker podcast, because we would love to have more likes, views, subscribe, and all that good stuff, please. And then there's the beginner mindset. Pretend you don't know nothing about or know anything about the problem. Sometimes that beginner mindset in a creative space is what you need because you've been so looking at something for so long that you forget how to look at something from a different perspective. And I think it did talk about
that. Calls to mind a story for me,
abstraction. It reminds me of abstraction because it's a different way of thinking, because someone new comes in, it's like, why don't you just do it like this? And you're like, gosh darn you, how dare you come in with your great solution, your great simple solution, just because they looked at it a different way.
Well, I think expertise lends you to bigger problems, right? So you're going to be looking for things that are more complex than maybe what's happening. So like when I worked on a TV show, the cameraman had a microphone that wasn't working. So he was like, we were behind schedule already. The people were there. They only had a set, like they had like an hour and a half total, and we're already like 15 minutes into that hour and a half. Like he's freaking out, sweating bullets. He's starting to break down the camera so that he can check, if the pieces are all put together.
Yeah.
And I just like walk over to him. I was like, "Hey man, the microphone's not plugged into the camera."
Yep.
And he just like glares at me, plugs it in, puts everything back, and then we go.
Yeah.
But it's like, when you're an expert at something, you're gonna miss the beginner stuff. Like, is it plugged in? Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Man, we were trying to order food earlier as we were getting ready for the podcast, and the app wasn't working, and I just turned the app off and started it up again, and it ended up working for the most part. So
yeah,
sometimes it's something as simple as that beginner mindset.
Yeah, man, it's good. It's good. Get out there and creative problem solve. To throw us back, close the loop on this. I just want to go back to that battleship story real quick and say, you clarified your problem. You had 10 pallets you needed to fill, right?
Yep.
You went back, like you said, and checked what product you had.
Yep.
You looked through the other pallets. Do I have enough?
Yep.
Are the like products going to be together? Do I have enough of those like products? Okay, you clarified the problem. You're ready to go. And then you decided, knowing that, exactly how it was going to flow end to end.
Yeah, I had to ideate, and that was where I was trying to come up with an idea, right? So I had a general idea of how I was going to do it. It's not in this simple step, but I had to adapt to change because something we did last year, which was a big something and would have taken up, half of the space that I had, we weren't doing this year. So I had to change that. And how we had our battleship structured was different than how we had it last year because that's what they wanted. So I had to change that as well. And that kind of lost me some space, honestly. I was expecting to have a little bit more space, even though it's weird, it's complicated, but I expected more space. And so after I was able to ideate and go through a couple different flows of like, okay, we're not doing this, we're not doing that. Okay, that's not going to be here. Okay, this is what I have. Okay, I don't have this, I don't have this, I don't have this. Okay, then I started to develop and figure out what product I am actually going to start putting down, how I'm going to put it down, and how.
And you had mentioned talking to your manager
Yes.
throughout the process too,
Yeah,
which is
so-
part of that develop process.
Yeah, in that develop process, I say like, okay, I've got these 3 things or 4 things, and it's like, I'm going to start on this one. Does that make sense to you? Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, sweet. And then there were some where I was asking like, what should I do here? And he said, what I would do, but this is up to you. And I'm like, you're the manager, just tell me what to do. But he very much is still like, this is up to you if you want to do it. Excuse me. He said, this is what I would do. And so I was like, okay, let me try it this way. I tried it his way. I tried it my way. Probably ended up going back with his way, but it's still a mixture of both of our ways. And then finally, I was able to implement. And for this, funny enough, I had to go back and forth between implement and develop because once I found a certain product that I needed, I threw those products down. And then I was like, okay, what am I going to do next? Okay, what am I going to do next? Okay, what am I going to do next? So I kind of did it in sections. So I still had to go through ideate, develop, and implement over and over again, even though clarify was the 10 pallets. So sometimes the creative problem doesn't take just one step or series of steps. Sometimes you have to go through cyclical steps over and over and over. Ideate, develop, implement. Ideate, develop, implement. Ideate, develop, implement. Just so that you can end up creating something in the end that will, be great, I guess. Be good. Achieve the goal that you set out for.
Nice. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
And I don't know who needs to hear this out there, but you are creative. And if you're finding a way to be proud of yourself at any job that doesn't allow you your complete freedom an ability to go out there and share your art and whatever that looks like, then good on you. I'm happy for that. My new job I love so much because I'm able to actually be creative there, and it's the first job I've ever had that I've been able to do that.
Yeah.
It's such a wonderful feeling. So I wish
awesome.
that for all of you out there. Thank you so much for listening to us this final week in November. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving. We'll catch you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Like and subscribe.